Doctors of Reddit, have you ever encountered an anti-vax patient? What happened? Many times. It often depends on the situation. If I have to do something to help the child that is unrelated to vaccines, I usually won't say much because I need to maintain a working relationship to help the child. It's also important to separate people who might be vaccine hesitant due to hearing already something. They are often willing to listen. True anti-vaxxers don't want to hear anything that contradicts them. If I get an opportunity to talk to them more about vaccines, I do so very carefully. Simply telling an anti-vaxxer the facts about vaccines doesn't work. So you have to move slow and ask them what their concerns are and try to answer them thoroughly. 99% of the time it doesn't work. So I fully document their refusal and then move on to the next patient. I just don't have time to sit and talk to someone for an hour about something they are ignorant about and are refusing to acknowledge. The worst one recently was having to tell some parents that their 14-year-old died from meningitis. They had declined the vaccine at school 3 months earlier. My family member is a true anti-vaxxer. I helped take care of her 3 young kids. She believes in a lot of really crazy shit. The vaccines being FDA prescribed poison thing is just one example. She's so deep in her beliefs there is no use talking to her about it. I often wonder, if one of those kids one day gets sick and dies from something like meningitis, will that be enough for her to realize she's wrong? Or more likely even then she'll find a way to explain it in a way that doesn't conflict with her beliefs. It'll be the second one. People believe what they want to believe and showing them evidence they were wrong strengthens their beliefs. It's actually awful. It really does. It's like the more evidence there is that she's wrong, the more conviction she has for her own conspiracies. As if the majority opinion opposite hers is proof that she is the correct one. She's the worst. I stick around for the kids though. Someone has to be there for them. All the time. Spend a little time trying to get them to take the shot. Give them printouts about the vaccine they are refusing. Document refusal. And move on. Nurse practitioner, here this guy speaks the truth. If I had a nickel for everyone in the last 2 months who has asked me about a COVID-19 vaccination, but still refuses influenza vaccination. I do a lot of work in hospitals and they started requiring contractors get a flu shot or else be required to wear a mask, so I got one. I had avoided it in the past because every year I heard about shortages and didn't want to take a more at-risk person's dose. Thought I was being selfless. All my other vaccines were always up to date and I'm a firm believer in childhood vaccinations. Now they make me wear a full bunny suit, gloves, and mask. At least in the ICU. But times are different now and I don't mind the PPE as much anymore. Still kind of a pain trying to answer a phone call when you're wearing a bunny suit with a tool belt over it though. For a second there my mind. Why are they making him dress as a bunny? English is not my first language and I had no idea you called them that. Had only heard the term hazmat suit. So yeah. I then got it by context, but for a full second there I was so confused. XD. Nurse here. Have any of your peers co-workers ever been anti-vax? I somewhat recently had a classmate who was anti-vax. Like WTF are you doing in nursing school? Last I heard she dropped out. Thankfully. Not a doctor. I worked as a receptionist in a pediatric clinic. Most people would ask if the kids really needed all those vaccines. Like they felt they were too many and wanted to give them only the important ones. For parents who completely refused vaccines, we had them sign official documentation that they were refusing, so if when the kid would get seriously sick or even die, we could prove that it was them and not us who made that decision. When I was a new mom, several other moms were going on and on about the sheer number of vaccinations and OMG, etc. I asked a good friend who is a pediatric nurse, and she said, just get the damn vaccines. It happened that I still have my vaccination record from the early Stone Age, so I took it to my son's pediatric visit. Compared side by side, today's babies get pretty much the same vaccinations as 40 years ago, plus chickenpox and HPV when they are a bit older. 2 shots I wished had been available to me. So I learned that all those vaccines are business as usual. Yes. And I always point out that they got their vaccinations and they did not magically get autism from them. But they are different now. They are poisoning our kids. No, they are saving your kids from polio and rubella. You want your kids to be deaf from the measles like my dad? Seriously. They act like the serious diseases are no big deal. There is a reason we invented vaccines for them. My son's pediatrician refuses to accept patients whose parents refuse to vaccinate for non-medical reasons. It's the main reason we chose her. She's also fabulous with our son. Surprisingly, the only time it was an issue was when I was a medical student. An anti-vaxxer mother refused the vitamin K injection for her newborn due to anti-vaxxer propaganda. Newborn had an intracerebral hemorrhage and is now a vegetable for life. Completely avoidable if the mother had accepted the Vit K injection. Worst part for me was she didn't accept that it was preventable and still firmly believes she made the right call by refusing the Vit K. Deep down she knows it was the wrong call. She doesn't have the gut to admit it out loud. Exactly this. To admit she was wrong means admitting she's a negligent mother who ruined her child's life. So she's in denial instead. This one boggles me. Anti-vaxxers tend to be so pro-vitamin C. It seems to be the cure-all in a lot of their minds. And other vitamins. Yet because vitamin K comes in a syringe and is administered by a doctor, it's the root of all evil. A lot of the objection to modern medicine has little to do with actual science and more to do with how palatable it sounds. It's all very emotional. Vitamin C is natural and comes in fruits and veggies. Vitamin K comes in a syringe and they inject a needle that makes your baby cry. I've had several patients who didn't vaccinate any of their kids. While many practices turn these people away, I consider it an opportunity to respect their wishes and gain their trust. But on every visit I ask them to compare data and have an open conversation about what they know. I do this in as non-confrontational and as genuine and helpful a way as possible. I've converted a number of anti-vaxxers in this way, while turning them away likely would never have resulted in the same outcome. The long con. Living up to his mighty username. Our pediatrician did this for me. It turned out that my daughter was allergic to the pertussis portion of her first vaccination, and had a severe and scary reaction. No one ever explained that was possible to me. And since I lived in Granola Country, California, what I did here was anti-vax. When I moved to Texas, I found someone like you. And I'm so thankful. I also found a pertussis-free tetanus booster at Walgreens. And my daughter had no problem with it. I'm allergic to the pertussis vaccine too. Extremely high fever, lethargy, etc. I had a tetanus scare last year, so the booster without pertussis is a literal lifesaver. This is great way approach IMO. Some people may have legitimate concerns and it's just good to see people have conversations about it. Really just rare to have people sit down and discuss things about any topic in life. Kudos. I was never vaccinated as a child and I remember the first time I went to the doctor. I was 18. She almost didn't believe me when I had told her I'd never been vaccinated. I got chicken pox when I was 20 and the doctor just kept asking, "Are you sure you weren't vaccinated?" Yes. Crazy people do exist. My mom. It's not that crazy to not be vaccinated for chicken pox. I'm only 34 and there wasn't a vaccine for it when I was a kid. So it seems like the majority of the patients this doctor sees, if they only see adults, wouldn't have been vaccinated for it. Not me. But my father is a pediatrician in California, where you can't send your child to school if they are not vaccinated. During a physical, my father asked the mother of 2 children when the last time the children got vaccinated. She answers, "I don't believe in vaccination. It causes autism." She then proceeded to ask him to forge the vaccination records. Long story short, he presented the facts declaring her claim to be a myth. She cursed him out. And then he responds with, "Mom, you're an idiot. Now get out of my office." The family moved to Nevada so the children could go to school unvaccinated. She then proceeded to ask him to forge the vaccination records. Well, that escalated quickly. Just include a bit of fraud and public endangerment to your doctor's visits. I work in an urban school. Every year in October, I am suddenly missing many students. They have to sit in the nurse's office until they can provide proof. Weird that Satan is a pediatrician. Ha. He's a nice guy. Orthodox Jew. Satan's a Jew? Is that where Jesus got it from? One of my friends is a doctor. At his practice, If you choose not to vaccinate, he will show you the pamphlets about vaccines. If there is no medical reason to not vaccinate, he will not keep you as a patient. He basically tells them he won't allow people to put his other patients at risk by not vaccinating. I asked my doc one time what would happen if I didn't vaccinate my kids. His response: "Where do you want your files transferred to?" His practice will not treat you unless you are vaccinated. We've got a couple anti-vaxxers in the family. So when we were pregnant, we asked the OBGYN if it was okay to be around them while pregnant. We knew we'd be cutting them off until the baby was fully vaccinated. The second we said the word vaccine, we could see the doctor brace herself, then start in on her spiel. We were quick to let her know that we were getting all the shots for our baby. We just wanted to know about during pregnancy. Turns out, while the baby is in mom, they basically share an immune system. So the baby is safe. Except for Zika. Watch out for that shit. Babies also retain some natural passive immunity through breastfeeding. But for some mothers, breastfeeding is too difficult, or impossible. Children who are formula fed are a little more at risk for disease. Elegant, effective and reasoned. I'm impressed.